Hello, we are students of the dietetics program here at Utah State University, and we're here to talk to you a little bit about nutrition while backpacking. My name is Marin Easton.
I'm Maddie Gunter.
And my name is Adeline White.
So here is an overview of what we're going to be going over. We're just going to talk about a few different ways that you can make your backpacking experience a little bit more nutritious.
Awesome. So when you're planning a backpacking trip, it's super important to have a plan of everything that's going to happen. So here are a couple of considerations to make when you're making your plan. The first one is determining the length. So it's important to know whether you're going to be backpacking for a couple of hours versus a full day or even a multiple day trip. This is important because you want to make sure that you have enough food, clothing, and materials for the entire trip. Once you've determined how long your backpacking trip is going to be, you can move on to planning your hydration. Make sure that you're going to have enough water and beverages containing electrolytes so that you can stay hydrated and enjoy your trip. We'll talk about these needs in a couple of minutes. Moving on, it's important to recognize how much calories you're going to burn and how many calories you're going to need to eat on your trip. So because backpacking is strenuous, a good rule of thumb is to take your weight in pounds and multiply it by 25 to 30 calories. This will give you a ballpark range of about how many calories you should be eating on your trip. So once you have those needs determined, you can move into making food choices to go along with your needs. A great rule of thumb is to pack lightweight food so that your pack isn't any heavier than it needs to be, especially because water is going to be heavier. Also, it's important to pack foods that you enjoy that you'll eat. So if I were to pack freeze-dried vegetables, I probably wouldn't eat that because that doesn't sound good to me. So I'd make a choice to eat fresh fruits or vegetables because that's what I like. Also, making sure that you're getting enough nutrients through your foods, which we'll talk about in a minute. The fifth consideration is to make sure that you pack extra because you never know when you might get lost or somebody might become injured. And you want to make sure that you have extra water and food on top of the needs that you've calculated so that you can last in case you're out on the trail longer than you planned. And then finally, make sure that you plan to eat a good breakfast. This breakfast should be high in protein and complex carbohydrates so that your body has enough energy, and also low in fiber and fat because that can cause your body discomfort while you're out on the trail. We'll talk about this in a minute. Moving into hydration, it's important to fuel your body before you leave. So try to drink at least 4 cups of water before you get out on the trail. Not only will this provide a good hydration foundation, but it will also eliminate those 4 cups from your pack that you won't have to carry. When you're on the trail, it's important to drink at least 2 cups of fluid every hour. And this should be a balance of both water and sports drinks that have electrolytes in it. This is important to keep your fluid and your electrolyte in balance. If your body becomes imbalanced and you're drinking too much water or you don't have enough electrolytes, you can develop a symptom called hyponatremia. And this is just when there's low amounts of sodium in your blood and too much water, and it will cause your cells to swell, and then it can become life-threatening. So it's just important that you're getting in those extra electrolytes and not drinking too much water. And then finally, just making sure that your water source is clean. If you're not planning to pack in water and you're planning to get it from a stream, just make sure that you have a water filter or iodine drops, or if it's a multiple day trip, you can also take a pot to boil your water. This will just ensure that you're getting a clean water source and not any pathogens in the water that you drink.
Okay, so while Maddie talked about a little bit about preparing for your trip, your next question was probably what types of food do you eat while on the trip? And if you're like me, when you think of backpacking and hiking, you think of freeze-dried food or just sun-dried food, anything that's lightweight that you can just shove into your pack and you don't have to worry about too much. But I'm here to tell you that there's other options that are just as convenient for your trip. And these are the 4 things on this slide that you want to consider when choosing food to eat on your trip. So first of all, you're doing a lot of movement, a lot of exercise, and your body is going to need fuel. So your main source of fuel is going to be carbohydrates. Carbohydrates include things like fruits, that can be fresh fruit, dried fruit, crackers, pretzels, any whole grains like oatmeal, rice, and whole grain breads. Those carbohydrates are going to make or break your trip, and trust me, your body is going to need that fuel, as you probably know. Sustaining is your next thing you're going to want to think about. Sustaining energy also comes from carbohydrates, but if you're eating carbohydrates like cookies or candy or white bread, then those carbohydrates tend to process in your body really fast, give you that boost of energy, and then leave you feeling sluggish. And no one wants to feel super awesome day one or for the first hour of the hike and then be lagging behind at the end because they didn't have sustaining food. Protein and fat are also going to help your body sustain that energy for a long period of time. So protein and fats are in things like nuts. A lot of people even bring beef jerky or canned tuna or packets of tuna and salmon. And then you want to consider what your body can handle during exercise. So if you're one of those people who, if you eat right before you exercise, you feel those cramps that make you feel uncomfortable and make you feel like you can't keep going, then maybe consider bringing some things that are easier to digest, like gels and Gatorade, so you still have that fuel, but you're not feeling those cramps. Some people can just eat and exercise and hike all day long, and if you're one of those people, then that's great. And then the fourth thing you want to think about is recovery. This is also a game changer, and I'll talk about this in a minute, but protein is going to be your main source of fuel to help repair those muscles. So timing for your nutrition, backpacking experts recommend a ballpark range around 200 to 300 calories every hour. So that's a lot of eating, but also you're doing a lot of movement and you're burning a lot of calories. So every hour, 200, 300 calories is about a peanut butter jelly sandwich or a couple handfuls of trail mix. You're going to need that fuel that often. And then also when you're thinking about protein and refueling yourselves and repairing your muscles, try to get in that 30-minute to 2-hour window after a strenuous hike or after a long day of hiking. That's when your body is going to be able to use that protein the best to repair your muscles. And you also want to be eating protein throughout the day. Trust me, you'll feel it the next day. If you didn't get enough protein to repair your muscles, you'll feel more sluggish. If you did, you'll feel more full of energy.
All right, so kind of going back to what Maddie said, and also Adeline talking about what food you're going to pack and how you're going to plan that. It's important to understand the length of your trip. Is it going to be a multiple day trip? Is it going to be months, weeks, or is it going to be just one day or one night? So when you're planning a multiple day backpacking trip, you're going to want to know the duration. And to understand that, you're going to want to know your rate, which is kind of how many miles per hour you travel. And you can figure that out by looking at the distance of your travel and dividing that by the time it takes. And that's a really important thing for people who are regular backpackers to understand how fast you typically travel. Another way to figure this out is by finding your distance between resupply. So let's say you're backpacking Europe, you're going from one town to the next town, and you want to know how many miles there are between then and how many miles per day you can travel. And that way you know, like, this is how much food I need to bring because this is how many days I'll be traveling. When you're doing a multiple day trip, you're going to want a meal plan. You can't just bring snacks. I promise you, you're not going to want to eat just oatmeal bars or protein bars or whatever, because that is not going to give you the right amount of energy. You're not going to be able to recover in the right way. Like Adeline was talking about, you need your protein, your carbohydrates, and different kinds of energy so that you can properly travel and feel energized and do what you need to do and enjoy your adventure. All right, and then when you're doing a one-day trip, that's more appropriate to pack several snacks. And it's good to know how intense your hike or trip is going to be so that you know how many calories you need. The more intense it is, the more you're going to want to eat, and the more you're going to need to eat protein afterwards so that your muscles can recover. And you also can pack more perishable foods. Unlike a multiple day trip where you're going to want to only pack foods that are not going to go bad, if it's just one day or one night, you can pack a few foods that will last multiple hours, such as a cheese stick, yogurt, sandwiches, and foods in that area. All right, another really important aspect of meal planning is to pack a variety. I want to make sure that when you are packing, you open up your backpack and there's a whole rainbow of assortments, because like I mentioned before, you don't want to be just eating the same protein bars over and over and over again. That's going to get boring. You're not going to want to eat. So what a lot of backpackers do is they'll have a lot of pre-made breakfast foods, pre-made dinner foods that are just quick, easy. You just have to add water, heat up. Like this person over here, you can tell that they have a ton of different oatmeals, and then they put different additives in them so that they have a variety of breakfast foods that give them a good amount of energy, and also they're different tasting. And then you can have a lot of different snacks, such as whole fruits like apples, oranges, bananas, which come with a natural peel to keep them preserved and good to eat through the whole trip. You can have a lot of different protein bars, breakfast bars, different dried fruits and nuts. You can have little pre-made no-bake cookies or no-bake protein snacks that will keep through your whole trip. This person at the bottom here has some sort of a pre-made dinner that you just probably had to put water in, heat up really quick, and it's good to go. You can have tuna in a package that you just have to add to food. You can have, like you see in the corner here, there's some seaweed, which is a great snack for when you're on the trail, but it's also a great thing to add to soups or to dinners to give you some extra nutrients. And then you can also have a variety of dried foods that you just add a little water to. Like this in the upper right corner is a type of hummus that was dried. You just have to add water, mix it together, and then it's good to dip your crackers in or some vegetables to add a little bit of protein to your snack. All right, thank you so much for joining us for this presentation. If you would like more information, feel free to look at the resources on the next slide or email our dietitian at fitness@usu.edu. Thank you.